Introduce and welcome investing at that pivotal moment. Shine some light on these very cool companies that are just about to bust out big or are in the process of doing so for everybody, not just people in fancy suits with pocket squares, but everybody can get involved. There's always risk involved with investing, but knowing the people behind the stock symbol is a big part of this puzzle. And today we're introducing you to Wayne Lloyd, who is the CEO of TraceSafe. Glad to have you here, Wayne.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited about this, not just because you're a Vancouver company addressing something that is very here and now and prevalent for us in Vancouver, in British Columbia, in Canada, and as a global community when it comes to COVID-19. We've all learned the importance of contact tracing, and your technology really speaks specifically to that, but also broadens out and dovetails nicely into so many other things. Let's start with COVID-19. What is TraceSafe?
Well, TraceSafe started out as a medical med tech company. They were serving some hospitals around infant tracking. So infant tracking in maternity wards, as far as making sure that the babies were with their rightful owners, and that any testing or transfers that happened intra-hospital all went off without a hitch. So of course, being in a medical setting, privacy is a massive part of that. You're dealing with patient records and all the most private information for people. Security, having the system be super secure and be able to interact with all of the systems in a hospital, such as access controls, and also having wearable devices that are safe and super comfortable. In our origin, of course, we're dealing with infants, so these are devices that cannot have any failure rate. And so really we took that technology and the location aware nature of that technology and answered the call about a year ago now, or a little bit more than a year ago now, in Hong Kong. They were trying to repatriate a lot of their citizenry. They did an inbound traveler quarantine, and our technology was a part of the story that enabled them to do that safely, to make sure that they contained the spread. And really the company's been on a rocket ship ride ever since, signing up many new governments. We've sort of become an expert in the government landscape there, working with around different travel plans, how governments are trying to work through this. And then separately, we've been doing a lot of work with the hospitality business, the transportation business, and large enterprises around the world. And the conversation has really been, COVID woke everybody up to what was going on, and now health and safety are really a business essential for everybody. And they're seeing contact tracing as a starting point for a bigger conversation across their business.
And when you talk about at the impetus of this, when you're talking about tracking babies in a hospital environment, I mean, as you said, there is no margin for error in having the wrong baby with the wrong parents. So in my mind, everything in hospitals always starts with that wristband, right? That's always been the case. Is that where this technology, where the AI lives? Is it a wristband?
Yeah, exactly. So it was just a hospital band. Looks exactly like a hospital band, waterproof, hypoallergenic, pretty comfortable, lightweight to wear. And that was where our focus was. We saw a few other companies look at doing things that were more heavy duty, with maybe like a locking mechanism or other things. Right. Obviously, we wanted people to go and be cooperative with whatever the health authorities are saying. But our stand was really about making the product as easy to use as humanly possible, so that people saw it as less of an inconvenience and something that could just come and go.
They could just wear it like this instead of an ankle bracelet, which some people imagined when talking about trying to open up some of the communities. What did you have? You had Singapore, Hong Kong, often countries or cities that are cited about how COVID-19 was really tracked and tamped down in a way where others struggled a little bit, because contact tracing is so key here. But as you said, and I think this is really interesting, is how it dovetails into so many things. I mean, when we're talking about all wanting to go back to a hockey game, everybody wants to go to a concert, everybody wants to, get back on a cruise ship. I mean, this goes all the way to the degree of if you're on a cruise ship and you're wearing one of these bracelets, you could unlock your cabin door with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the if you look at, you know, the hospitality industry, you look at enterprises, you know, you had an era of, you know, metal keys, and then you had a mag stripe era where people
Yeah,
were swiping and doing those sorts of things. And
I
now
use
in a
those.
post-COVID world, everything is going touchless. And so you have to have devices that are effectively just intelligent devices. And it's not about having a wristband necessarily on board a cruise ship. It's not about having a wristband in your office that's going to track you. It's about having a device that has enough intelligence on it that it can do all the things that you want. It makes your life a lot easier. And in the background, God forbid something happens, there is an outbreak, you will be able to sort of react to it quickly and get things under control. So I think the contact tracing is just table stakes now, and
Yeah.
companies are looking at elegant, pleasant, really nice ways to bring people back to work and make things a lot easier. So that's where our focus is. Our focus is always on making things, elevating the guest experience in a hospitality setting, and really making life easier for our customers in the enterprise world.
And it is, again, TraceSafe, your stock symbol, TSF.CSE or UTOLF.OTC. And what I really enjoy about doing the research here into TraceSafe is the privacy piece. And that, because that's what had people all freaked out with the government COVID-19 contact tracing app. I mean, the uproar in my day job and working in news talk radio, there were people that were just like, absolutely not. No matter how many times the government said, we're not interested in your information, your personal information. We just want to know who you've been nearby. Tell us how TraceSafe differs from an app-based contact tracing situation.
Yeah, so I mean, I tend to agree. I think that anything that tackles the problem from a sort of nation state standpoint is almost doomed to fail, because it's just too big of a problem, and there's too many variables. We obviously prefer companies, individuals, communities to tackle the problem on a little bit more of a local level. Obviously, big coordination is needed, but taking that kind of responsibility to a local level, that means in a workplace, you know, having if you have an active work site, you know, being able to understand, you know, who is in contact with who and for how long. Our solution is appless, so meaning we don't need an app, and our devices work peer-to-peer, and they just sort of at the end of the day gather all the information. It gets stored in a database. We are really privacy by design. That's our number one thing. You can't get people to use the products if they feel like they're being tracked. I think people feel like their cell phone is a bit of a sacred place, to be honest. There's so much personal information, the photos, the things that are there. And, you know, you don't want to have in the back of your mind, okay, what's going on that I forgot? What permission did I give that I don't want to do anymore? There's all these sort of questions, and it's easier to just say no. With a wearable, you know when it's active because you can see and touch, and it's very tangible. And it might be just a part of your workplace equipment. It might be a part of your hard hat. It might be on your ID badge as you go in, and you can leave those things. It's not going to be following you to the restaurant or bar or friend's house or whatever. Your phone goes with you everywhere. We have a works at work, stays at work solution that we think is, you know, the appropriate level of you know, that's what we should be doing. So yeah, I really agree. The app-based thing has seen a lot of pushback, and I can totally understand why. Your phone does a lot more than and people just don't like to have that top of mind.
I agree with you 100%, which is why TraceSafe is so exciting as an opportunity for investment, because there are going to be people that say, wait a minute, I can use that to track how hard I work, so I don't have to prove to my boss that I was putting that much effort in at the work site. Or it's like a time card. It's a time card that follows you everywhere, knows what your engagement is, where you've been in the building, what you're doing. And when you're at work, I mean, you never have to prove that. And if there's, let's say, heaven forbid, an accident on a construction site, you can almost rebuild it. Who was where? What happened? What fell where and how? Because this is artificial intelligence that doesn't have any sway. It's not influenced by anything, even emotion. It just is what it is, right?
Well, yeah, I think the interesting thing that we're doing on a lot of job sites, and this is really rooted in our work in Singapore. So we've been working with some of the biggest construction firms in Singapore, and what the main thing is having a workplace that brings a little bit more intelligence to what you're doing, and that means maybe putting sensors on some dangerous equipment. Maybe there's a crane or a backhoe or something, and having that be able to communicate with the things, the wearables you have on your body, so that if you get too close or if you're in a blind spot of one of those pieces of machinery, you can get an additional alert. So this is like trying to take
Wow.
a proactive approach to safety. And then, yeah, if there is a if there is an accident on the job site, you obviously have a little bit more data, a little bit more context. Was there someone that was even operating a piece of machinery that they shouldn't have been doing? You can get to the bottom of these situations and really kind of take corrective measures very fast. What people are thinking about now is a lot of continuity, and ensuring that their jobs and their workplaces remain in an uptime situation. And so,
Right.
safety, obviously COVID has woken people up to a lot of things, but just the safety process in general, you want to make sure you have the most uptime, and also keep your workers safe and healthy. That's a huge part.
Safe and healthy. I love in reading more about TraceSafe. Again, TraceSafe. TraceSafe is the name of the company. CEO Wayne Lloyd here, Vancouver based, this company.
Yeah, we have an office in Vancouver here. We also have an office in California. We're down in Laguna Hills. We have a lot of our sales team out in Waterloo. In addition to that, we have a large office in Singapore. So we're really quite an international company, and working with governments, corporations all over the world on global deployments.
I was leading you into the we're all hockey fans here because IIHF, I mean, you did the World Junior Hockey Championships in Edmonton with TraceSafe. That's huge. Boston Celtics, Boston Bruins, because you're working with venues like TD Garden. Talk about that that excites me as a former sportscaster. I mean, I want to go back to sporting events. I want that. I
Yeah,
miss it.
no. So it's pretty interesting. The World Junior Hockey Championships was an incredible event to be a part of. They did an incredible job, I would say. The Alberta Health, the Hockey Federation, Hockey Canada, everybody involved in the event was really impressive. They brought in 600-700 athletes from all over the world at a time when it was very difficult to do that. It was kind of the height of things. And they brought them in. We helped them with the quarantine, so all the athletes had to stay in their hotel room, briefly while they awaited their testing, and so they had to do a couple tests, and then they're back on the ice, practicing and working out and doing all the things, because this is like a big game. It's the sporting event of their life for some of them, and obviously we wanted to do everything we could from a technology perspective to shorten the time that they needed to be in quarantine and kind of accelerate that and get back to what was important, which was the hockey game and the tournament. So
were they wristbanded do they arrive and get a TraceSafe wristband? Is that how it looked?
that's it. So when they arrived, they registered for the event. They all came in on different chartered flights, and they got a wristband. They went to the hotel room, and then they got tested. And then once they were tested, they could be admitted into the bubble. And when they were in the bubble, there was no more wristbands. The contact tracing piece was actually embedded directly into the event credentials. So as long as you had your event credentials, everyone has to wear in a tournament setting like that, you were fine. And so that meant that it kind of just faded to the back of people's minds. It was a part of something that they were going to have to wear anyways. It wasn't additive, and it turned out to be super effective. So we were happy to be a part of that success story.
That's super cool. We're with Wayne Lloyd, CEO of TraceSafe, talking about this AI wearable that can be really applied in so many ways. Again, the stock symbol is TSF.CSE or UTOLF.OTC. And honestly, like, you have to promise to come back and give us updates on this so we can follow as you continue to grow, because you seem on quite the trajectory here. The one question that I know, and I could hear first glance with Jody Vance viewers yelling, how much do they cost? What is the unit price, or is it a rental situation? How does that process go for somebody that's looking to add this maybe to their workplace or to their event?
Yeah, so I'll give you a couple examples. The first example is, we just did a global deployment with a company that, they're operating in, over a dozen countries. They're a tier 1 semiconductor manufacturer. They have, all these operations and all these different manufacturing facilities. We outfitted 40,000 of their full-time employees and 20,000 contractors. So for a total of 60,000 wearables.
Yeah.
And then we're installing our devices on additionally, the gateways and all the connectivity pieces in their environments. So, you have a scope like that where we're working with a global 500 company. It's a very complex deployment. In that case, we're working with Lloyd, the global consultancy company, to actually kind of effectively be a partner on the ground and getting all the systems up and running. So the price point for a project like that on a per unit basis is going to be significantly different than something we're going to be doing for if you have under 500 employees. But the pricing is not going to be something. The amazing thing is that the global pandemic has increased the demand for these types of chips and all the really expensive pieces that go into these things, which has driven the cost down quite a lot.
Good.
That means we see these devices as being a mainstream thing that could be deployed at every workplace. The price point is coming down. So you're talking about a product that is, under $100 per employee, and in the case of like massive volume deployments, significantly less than that. So,
and reusable in that sense. If there's employee turnover, those ones that were used at IHF, where they then wiped, the battery life, because there are competitors in this field, obviously, but yours is the one that seems to have that battery life that makes it sort of next level user friendly, right?
Exactly. So one of our advantages is that we develop everything from scratch. Like all of our boards, firmware, everything is designed in-house by our team, which means we can really manage the power settings optimally. A lot of the competitors are taking kind of off-the-shelf products and repurposing them, and so we have total control. Our battery life is significantly better than most of our competitors, and while keeping the price point down. So, I mean, I think that we have one of the most compelling product offerings out there, and yeah, I think the battery life is a major differentiator there.
Battery life, wearability, comfort, privacy, all of these things come into play when it comes to TraceSafe, and being so in demand right now in a global pandemic, but having so much multi-use, multi-purpose moving forward, a great opportunity for growth. Wayne, thanks so much for doing this today. And please, as I said, come back to First Glance and keep us updated on your company as your trajectory continues on that track upward.
Will do. Thanks, Jody.
What?